There is a generation that curses their father and doth not bless their mother. There is a generation that are pure in their own eyes, and yet is not washed from their filthiness. There is a generation, oh how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up. There is a generation whose teeth are as swords, and their jaw teeth as knives, to devour the poor from off the earth, and the needy from among men. In our age, the words of this proverb are coming to life. We live in a society that is pure in their own eyes, while attacking all biblical morals and values. And nowhere is this seen more than in the media. Bible in the News has often commented on the media bias and narrative war that is being fought against Israel and the Jewish people. And of course, this same narrative war is being fought in the larger media industry as well. Much of our culture and political views are influenced by the media, whether that is through the news we digest, the books we read, or the films that we might watch. In many ways, the media defines the conversation and has a huge impact on political beliefs and personal morals. And in many ways, this makes sense, since in a free society, you would expect different news outlets to have different opinions and points of view on any given subject. However, as society moves further and further away from any biblical values, then the media can become an incredibly potent weapon in shifting public opinion against biblical views that were once commonly held in the Western world. One example of this is the new Barbie film that came out last month. In the last few weeks, there has been much debate and conversation around some of the issues that are touched upon in the film, with even the conservatives seemingly split down the middle by it. However, the Barbie film is just another example of how Western culture is not only losing its biblical roots, but also attacking previously understood norms. Even a glance at the Wikipedia page for the Barbie film demonstrates an insane political agenda. For example, at the start of the film, Barbie Land is a matriarchal society. Later in the plot, the characters learn about the patriarchal system in the real world, rather than in Barbie Land. And note here, the implicit working assumption, therefore, of the film is that the real world is dominated by oppressive men. Barbie Land is then taken over and becomes a patriarchal society where, quoting Wikipedia, quote, the Barbies are indoctrinated into submissive roles such as agreeable girlfriends, housewives, and even maids, end quote. However, by the end, according to Wikipedia, the patriarchy in Barbie Land is overthrown and the Barbies regain power. Having now experienced systemic oppression for themselves, the Barbies resolve to rectify the faults of their previous society, emphasizing better treatment of the males in Barbie Land. And finally, two of the main characters, so one of the Barbies, and the seemingly oppressed male figure, go off to find their own autonomous identities. There is no reference to a heteronormative relationship, marriage, or families, or in fact any happy ending whatsoever. Further to this, the amount of times that the words patriarchy and oppression are used in the Wikipedia page demonstrates the clear, overt, postmodern discussion that this film is hoping to stimulate. Further to this, transgender actor Harry Neff, who plays a Dr. Barbie role in the film, told the transgender magazine called Out that the film has an empowering message about being transgender. Quote, as much as there's a celebration of femininity and being a girl in this movie, I think there's also an encouragement of letting go of the checklist we ascribe to living, and living your life and being in your body, your way, and on your own terms, Neff said. Now, regardless of any reservations that we might have about this kind of radical messaging, just the sheer self-absorbedness of this statement is staggering. The film has also been praised for deconstructing heteronormative gender roles about toys and colours. For example, one actor said, quote, I'm so glad that this movie exists because I think it puts the final nail into the coffin of that very heteronormative idea of what gender is and what is or is not gendered, End quote. Films that have open and clear agendas such as this sow confusion in a very powerful way. There is no telling how many millions of young people this may have affected with its messaging. And this is only one film of the many countless others that all have similar ideas behind them. It is commonly known that in the past, the overrepresentation of sexual activity outside of marriage, with divorce constantly shoehorned into any TV series or films, has had a huge effect on the way that sexual immorality was perceived in the world. More recently, the same overrepresentation has been seen for homosexuality, and also a huge number of films that question gender and queerness and other things like family life. This media barrage stands in direct contradiction to the principle that God created humans as male and female, and that a man should leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife. There can be no doubt that this relentless narrative pushed by the media will have devastating effects on Western society as a whole. One final example of the overtly political narrative pushed by the Barbie film can be seen through Glamour magazine's favourite Barbie quotes, as they say, with the first one of them being, quote, "Basically, everything that men do in your world, women do in ours," the Barbie says. And then secondly, the question is posed, "I'm a man with no power. Does that make me a woman?" End quote. In Philippians chapter 4 and verse 8, we read, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things." End quote. It is hard to see how much, if any, of the Western media diet could fall into these categories. It is important to be aware of how the things that we might watch, read, or listen to can influence our perspective and thinking. This has been Daniel Blackburn joining you for this week's edition of Bible in the News.